The entire corridor heard it when Dr. Michael said those words. "You only clean the floors, Sarah. Stay in your place." Silence fell instantly. Two nurses stopped mid-conversation. A patient on a stretcher turned his head away. Even the security guard at the end of the hallway pretended to check his phone just to avoid looking at the scene. Sarah stood frozen, gripping the mop handle tightly, her face burning. She was used to being invisible in that hospital. She arrived before sunrise. She left, when almost no one else was there. She cleaned what nobody wanted to touch. She organized what everyone else messed up. But she had never been humiliated like that, in public. "I was just trying to tell you," she said quietly. Dr. Michael didn't let her finish. "Tell me what? You're not a doctor. You're not a nurse. You're a janitor. Do your job." A few people lowered their eyes. Sarah swallowed hard and went back to mopping as if nothing had happened. But nothing was normal, because minutes before that humiliation, Sarah had seen something she wasn't supposed to see. Hours earlier, she had been cleaning the hallway when she saw Dr. Michael rush out of a patient's room. He looked nervous. He kept glancing over his shoulder. He almost ran into her. "Watch it," he snapped. When he turned the corner, Sarah noticed something strange on the chart cart near the door. 2 names switched, 2 files out of order. She didn't understand medicine, but she could read, and she knew the name on. The document didn't match the name on the door. She stared at it for a few seconds, thought about ignoring it, but something inside her didn't feel right. She called out to a nurse. "I think something's wrong here." The nurse glanced quickly. "I'll check it later," and hurried away. Sarah felt uneasy. That's when she decided to speak directly to Dr. Michael, and received that answer. "You only clean the floors." She went back to work, but she couldn't shake the feeling. 2 hours later, the hospital atmosphere changed. A patient suddenly developed unexpected complications. Footsteps rushed down the hallway. They called Dr. Michael. More doctors arrived. Doors shut quickly. Voices overlapped. Sarah watched from a distance, her chest tightening. Half an hour later, she heard someone say, "The chart doesn't match." Another voice responded, "This procedure wasn't meant for this patient." Silence, tension. Someone had made a mistake, and it was serious. Administration stepped in. Documents were reviewed. Questions filled the room. Who was on duty? Who checked the charts? Who handled the records? Dr. Michael looked pale, trying to explain, but something wasn't adding up. That's when one of the nurses remembered. "Sarah was in the hallway when you came out of that room." All eyes turned toward her. The janitor, the same woman who had just been humiliated. They called Sarah into the administrative office. She walked in nervously. Dr. Michael was sitting there, now silent. No arrogance, no raised voice. "Sarah," the director said, "did you notice anything unusual today?" She took a deep breath. She could have said no. She could have returned the humiliation. She could have pretended she didn't remember. But this wasn't about Dr. Michael. It was about the patient. "I saw 2 charts switched on the cart," she said. "The name on the door didn't match the document on top." The room went quiet. The director requested the files. They checked. It was exactly as she described. The charts had been placed in the wrong rooms for several minutes, long enough to cause confusion, long enough for a nearly irreversible mistake. The procedure was corrected in time, the patient stabilized, the family was informed. An internal investigation was opened, and for the first time that day, no one looked at Sarah as if she were invisible. Dr. Michael tried to justify himself, said he was exhausted, that the shift had been long, but the mistake was documented, and the only person who noticed before it was too late was the janitor. The next day, when Sarah walked into the hospital, something felt different. The same walls, the same floors, but different looks. A nurse said, "Thank you for yesterday." The security guard nodded at her. Even the director stopped to greet her. Dr. Michael passed her in the hallway. No arrogance, no mockery. "Good morning, Sarah," he said quietly. She responded politely, without anger, without sarcasm, because what she did wasn't revenge, it was character. And in that hospital, everyone learned something important. A title does not define someone's value. Sometimes the most overlooked person is the one paying the closest attention, and if Sarah had stayed silent, maybe no one would have found out in time. Maybe the mistake would have been too late to fix. But she chose to speak, even after being humiliated, even after being told to stay in her place. And you, if you were in her position, would you have stayed silent or would you have had the courage to speak up?